People often say, "You are so resilient." What does this actually mean? Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Resilient Space podcast. I'm your host, Hefsiba. I believe you have watched episode 1. If you haven't, please go watch episode 1 because we are continuing a beautiful series of introducing the podcast and speaking about things that matter to us. Okay. On this episode, we're exploring the topic, what does it mean to be resilient? What does resilience mean? But before we even go into some of the talking points and breaking things down, I want us to look at the dictionary. Resilience, according to Oxford Dictionary that I have opened here, says it's the ability for people or things to feel better quickly after something unpleasant, such as a break, injury. And they went on to say the ability for a substance to return to its original shape after it's been bent, stretched, or pressed. How does this apply to us as human beings? How do you go through losing your job, not having money, losing something special or someone special to you? How do you go back to your original form? And it makes us to understand what is our original form in the first place. Like what was my original form? How was I created? And why do I even need resilience? Why is life not so straightforward? My name is Hefsiba. I was born in Nigeria. I've been through different seasons that made me doubt myself, made me question, sometimes questioning God, questioning all that I've built, questioning what is there more to life, feeling upset about circumstances, situations, sometimes things that I felt hopeless and helpless, and I couldn't just do anything. People that I've been upset with, like, why would this person do this to me? And I began to ask myself, how can I show resilience? Like, I don't think anybody would wake up one day and say, today I'm going to be resilient. If that's you, congrats. But I know for many people, it's not always the easiest thing to do and say, today, whatever today's date is, I am going to be resilient. You can't tell yourself that, of course, to encourage yourself. You can't put it at the back of your mind that every day is a day of resilience. Definitely, I approve of that. But there are times where you just don't know what to do. You're not sure of how to go about things. And that is where your inner power, your inner drive would lean towards resilience. And even if it doesn't on some hard days, it's being patient with yourself, it's trusting the journey, and of course, knowing that there is much more, bigger, better things at the end of that difficult season. And so on today's podcast, we're just going to talk about resilience. I'm going to share personal anecdotes, and I want you to also leave a comment telling me how you've demonstrated resilience. Who knows, someone may read your story or read your feedback and you'll just be inspired and encouraged. In my book, Resilience, I shared a few things, but I'm going to focus on 3 things for this purpose of this episode. The first one is how to rebuild. I remember after I had graduated from the university in Ghana, I told myself, I'm going to get this job, I'm going to get that job. And you know what? We're going to leave the country. And we're going to be working in XXX and in this place and this kind of, with this type of salary and all of that. But the truth was, that did not happen quickly. It didn't happen quickly. So after my university, I was one of the top. In fact, I got the highest award in the university called the Presidential Award. And I thought, okay, Doors would just open magically. Things would just happen so fast. But the truth, that did not happen. In fact, the years after my university program were, at that time, was one of the most difficult because I was trying to work. So I worked in Ghana with a tech startup. I was not living adult life, like adult life 1.0. Adult life from like you are living it very well. Why do I say this? My university, I was on a scholarship. Food was catered for, school fees was paid. Of course, we had a bit of allowance sometimes, which I call stipend. So it was cool. But after school, I saw life well. Like my eyes was clear. I saw life well. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. I'm just a recent graduate trying to find out, okay, what do? I need my paycheck, I need a salary. But that wasn't coming forth immediately. And so I had to just find something. Thankfully, I found a job, but this was through a connection. And that could help me just stay afloat. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't a huge salary at that time because it was a startup. But it just gave me the balance and the grind. Like I was little by little finding my feet. And that was when I began to rebuild. Okay, I'd applied to X companies or rejections. I'd applied to different places and they're like, no, we're not taking. I'm like, okay, what do I have in my hands? Because there are times where if you need to bounce back based on the dictionary definition of what resilience is, we need to ask ourselves, what do I have in my hands? Because you can't rebuild without taking stock of what you have in your hands. Okay, I have this, I have that. Okay, I'm going to definitely put in my best in my job. So I gave my best to my job. But I said, okay, I have my degree, I have these experiences, I have a CV. Let's continue applying. So I had my job then. Some days I didn't want to apply, but I was still, being updated on what was happening around the world. What else can I do? And the good thing was at that time, I knew I had an internship that was coming up in the United Kingdom. So don't worry, there'll be a different video about like moving to the UK, etc. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go for that. And after that, go back to Nigeria and probably get a job there. Or if I'm lucky enough, if God helps me, because I call God a lot, I'll get a job with the same company I was going to intern at. So rebuilding process started with taking stock of what I had in my hands, being grateful for where I was at that season, and of course, not losing sight of my dream. The second thing that I would mention in understanding what resilience really means is, can you guess? Can you think about it? It's finding your feet. Why do I say finding your feet? In bouncing back, in being resilient, a lot of the times we think, oh, okay, I'm going through a disappointing season. I don't know what to do right now. Like, I don't even know where to go. I just don't know. In fact, I can't even think. Like, I'm so down, I can't think. I know. I've been there. I want to acknowledge that it's real. It may not necessarily be depression. It may not necessarily be you are just going through a mental breakdown. Sometimes it could be going through a mental breakdown. But it's important that you find your feet. Why do I say this? Finding your feet is going back to what are some of the things you love? Going back to say, what are some of the things that I enjoy? I don't want it to sound very too like instructable, like, can you have a conversation with yourself, an honest, genuine conversation? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What did I dream about? What were some of the things that I aspired? And for me, I call that finding your feet because you're going back to yourself. You're trying to find your balance. You're trying to find your stability. And sometimes finding your stability doesn't mean applying again. It doesn't mean hopping up to another job. There's good, of course, the third thing we're going to talk about that, right? Finding your feet as a resilient person is going back to what gives me that inner joy. Some of you say sleeping. I'm looking at you. Some of you say running. Some of you say something else that may not necessarily be things that can bring you money. But it's nice that you write it down. In my life, the times where I didn't have a job, the times I lost a job, the times I didn't even know I was going to go to school, it was a whole journey for me from moving from Nigeria to Ghana, because for a whole year, I was at home. And at that time, I was doing makeup. I went to a professional makeup school. At some point, I practiced professional makeup, being a professional makeup artist for people. And I used to get paid. But at that time, my mom was like, you have to do something. You have to do something in that 1 year. You're not going to be idle. Finding my feet at that time didn't necessarily mean doing everything or not losing sight of application process to schools. It meant for me doing something, probably learning a skill, going back to something that I love. I didn't know I would love makeup, right? I just dabbled, found it, like just my mom. Of course, my mom, thanks to my mom, she's like, do it, and I did it. So I would say, in understanding what resilience truly means, I want you to find your feet. It may not be what everyone wants you to do at that time, but reconnect with yourself. Reconnect with what you genuinely love, what you genuinely adore, appreciate. And of course, the third thing is, can you guess? Can you guess what the third thing is? I want you to pause for a minute. Think about what the third thing would be. Just think about it for yourself. What's the third thing? Some of you are like, tell us. The third thing is doing something. So now we talked about understanding what resilience meant. We talked about rebuilding. We talked about finding your feet. The third thing is doing something. Now you've identified something that is of interest to you, something that you can do. You need to do something. You need to do something about what you found. I try not to use the word just do it, because I know that's a favorite brand name, right? And like a logo from one of like the top brands. Or just move, just do it. Do something. For people who are in very dark seasons, sometimes they can't do anything, and I admit and I understand, and I'm not even giving, this is not even a health advice or anything. I'm drawing lessons from my experience, and of course experiences of people that have been close to me, that I've witnessed, and just experiences from being a coach as well. I've identified that I want to write a book. I love writing. I will just write 1 page. That's doing something. 2 pages. Probably doing a research. For some of you who want to find your feedback through application process, before you go straight into just applying, you need to first of all ask yourself, is this really what I want? Some of you are like, oh, maybe this is not genuinely what I want, but I need to pay the bills. Good, that's the plan. That's just something that you want because you have to pay the bills, right? And so you're applying. That's part of doing something. But there are other times where doing something is rest. Doing something is pivoting to a new path. Sometimes when doing something is finding a different strategy to still do what you love, to still do what you've admired and you genuinely wanted to do. Whilst the balance in other things. But once there's a thought, once there's a nudge in your heart, something you connect with and something you feel genuine that I want to branch out to this. Doing something means speaking to someone about it, someone you trust, not just everybody, because there are people you speak to and they shut you down. Someone you trust. It could be learning a course. It could be even finding therapy for your mental health and your mental well-being. It could be writing. It could be baking. It could be cooking. It could be rest, because your body needs to recalibrate. Sometimes it could be cutting down on activities. And there's a reason why I said the first one is rebuild. But you can't rebuild without reconnecting to yourself or finding your feet or doing something. So those are the top 3 things I'll talk about and I would love to share. that I've just shared right now about what resilience genuinely means. I just don't want to say, oh, don't give up, because I feel like I've heard that term a lot of times. Oh, just do it. That's great. But for people who are rebuilding, maybe you're rebuilding your business, you're starting a business, could be opening an Instagram page. And I'm not telling you these things because I haven't done it. I've genuinely done it. And I try not to overload. I don't want to overload my first episode with just so much advice and but these are things I have done my research on, things I've seen. And of course, being an author and drawing from all the experiences, working across countries, doing different things, it's all forming, it's all strengthening you. Yes, and I just want to commend you for even watching and staying to the end, because I believe that there's a resilient version of you. You may not have seen it, but as time goes on, you would fully see the resilient person in you. The Resilient Space podcast is not just only about me, it's about the different individuals, creatives, creators, entrepreneurs that need to reconnect back to themselves and live out resilience. It's not just by saying it, it's by living it out. So friends, family, let me know how you've demonstrated resilience. Let me know which of the top 3 things I mentioned today stood out to you. Put it in the comment section. And I just want to say, you are strengthened, you are stronger than you imagine, you are resilient. Repeat it to yourself every day. You are resilient. This is the end of the episode 2 of the Resilient Space podcast. I can't wait to see you in episode 3. Let me know your thoughts. Share it with someone. Love, like. In fact, love again and like it again. Subscribe, and I'll see you in episode 3. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers! Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of the